Hello, they call me the coffee man. They say I have a bit of an expertise on brews. I wanted to talk about my 1950s percolator. So, I've had this glass 1950s clear Pyrex percolator for quite a while now. And it has a funnel. It's this medium-sized 4-cup percolator with this big handle. The entire thing's glass except for some little stainless steel sections of it. And you put in these scoops of coffee. You got this tablespoon. It's actually a double tablespoon measure. And usually you use 2 of those every time you fire this thing up. I find that after it starts dripping, I just simmer the coffee for 5 minutes. If I don't turn on the heat when it starts dripping, we got a problem on our hands. Oh boy, Houston. Anyway, so what have I had with this percolator? I've had a good number. I've had Dunkin Donuts, Hills Brothers, Café Bustello, Maxwell House Colombian. I've never had Maxwell House Original at the moment, but it would be informative to give a brief review of all these different coffees. First of all, for everyone not stout enough to handle a regular coffee, there is Dunkin Donuts decaf, which comes in a rather small, in this case, bag, and it can be folded into itself with small plastic tabs. The benefit of this is that it essentially pushes all the air out, and this stops the coffee from oxidizing and makes it last quite a long time. Now, the Dunkin Donuts coffee is surprisingly good tasting. It's your rather typical medium brew, not amazingly strong with any particular flavor notes, but yet it's very fresh, it stays fresh. You have to use a good amount of it, but I find for a standard coffee roast, it is very good. Now, the Hills Brothers is rather similar. It's also medium roast. It might feel slightly darker. Decaf coffee may have slight decaf chemical notes to it, and your standard coffee avoids those. Hills Brothers, slightly more full-bodied, nuttier taste to it, but also very good. I have not seen it personally in those same types of plastic. Are they plastic? Plastic type bags. I recommend those highly. Café Bustello also comes in those. It is a very dark, kind of smoky roast, and it doesn't really have the smoothness of the aforementioned 2 types of coffee. I detect a slight, I hesitate to say, burnt note in that, as with Starbucks coffee, regrettably. Now, it's up to personal opinion whether one likes or dislikes this deep, dark roast note. Now, Maxwell House makes a Colombian coffee that I sadly cannot compare to their regular blend, but it has more citrus, lemon type notes to it, and it tastes about 25% lighter than the medium brews we've talked about before. So overall, I would think if I had tried Dunkin Donuts original blend, that might edge out the others slightly. But as it is, Hills Brothers is a nice coffee in the percolator. And I've also had this bourbon blend coffee. Sadly, I put in the amount that would have worked for Hills Brothers, but the bourbon blend is about half the strength. So I could taste it, but it was rather weak in the notes. And that would be good, decent flavored coffee, and I cannot refer you to the brand of that at the moment. But the most interesting thing about this percolator is that it bubbles the water up through a funnel and disperses it back down using a series of perforated stainless steel sections, and this distributes it throughout the coffee beans, and it is almost an alchemical process. I find these vintage percolators are more fascinating than any other type of way to make coffee, perhaps, and I quite recommend them. So thank you very much, and leave your opinions of these coffees if you have had any in the letter box below. Over and out, the Coffee Man.